The crimson glow of Mars filled the viewport, a silent, breathtaking spectacle as the Mars lander, Odyssey, groaned under the immense strain of atmospheric entry. Inside, Commander Eva Rostova, a woman whose eyes held the weary wisdom of countless orbits and a profound, unyielding grief gripped her armrests. Her past, scarred by the global water crisis that had stolen her family, fueled an almost desperate resolve. This mission wasn't just about exploration, it was a desperate bid to secure humanity's future, a testament to her personal vow that no one else would suffer the same loss. Around her, the small elite crew, Dr. Kenji Tanaka, the brilliant but often impulsive engineer, and Dr. Lena Petrova, the cautious and meticulous biologist, breathed shallowly, each lost in their own tense anticipation. A sudden jarring lurch threw them against their restraints. Alarms blared, piercing the oppressive silence. "Commander, primary atmospheric sensor just flatlined." Kenji's voice, usually calm, was laced with a raw edge of panic. "We're flying blind through the thermosphere. Manual override initiated, but we're losing attitude control." Eva's mind raced. One mistake, one miscalculation, and the Odyssey would become a fiery meteor streaking across the Martian sky, its precious cargo of hope incinerated. Her fingers danced across the console, a blur of practiced precision, wrestling the colossal vessel back from the brink of catastrophe. Sweat beaded on her forehead. Her jaw clenched tight as she fought the planet's relentless pull. Finally, with a bone-rattling shudder and a deafening roar, the landing struts deployed, hammering into the Martian soil. They were down. The silence that followed was even more profound than before, broken only by the rhythmic thrum of the ship's life support and the crew's ragged breaths. The hatch hissed open, revealing a landscape utterly alien, choked with an omnipresent reddish dust. The air, thin and unbreathable, pressed down with an oppressive weight, a stark reminder of their fragile existence. Stepping onto the Martian surface, the crunch of regolith beneath Eva's boots was the only sound in a world devoid of life. A vast, desolate expanse, stretching to a horizon painted in hues of ochre and rust. The constant hum of their suits' life support systems was a vital, ever-present whisper, a metallic heartbeat against the planet's silent grandeur. They began their initial scans, a flurry of scientific activity, as Kenji deployed the primary water extraction unit, a critical piece of equipment designed to convert Martian ice into potable water. Their very survival hinged on its operation. Just as the unit began to whir to life, a sudden violent gust of wind, a rogue dust devil, materialized from nowhere. It slammed into the equipment with unexpected force, sending a shower of sparks and a sickening crunch echoing across the barren plains. Eva watched, horrified as the unit crumpled, its delicate internal mechanisms exposed and twisted. Kenji rushed forward, his face etched with disbelief and despair, kneeling beside the crippled machinery. The Martian wind, now a mocking whisper, swirled around them. Their primary water source, the lifeblood of their mission, was compromised, less than an hour after landing. Eva stared at the broken unit, her chilling realization dawning on her. The mission's entire water supply was now in jeopardy. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. The reality of their predicament settled over the crew like the Martian dust, heavy and suffocating. Kenji Tanaka, his brow furrowed with intense concentration, meticulously assessed the damaged water unit. Its primary conduit, a vital artery for the entire system, lay twisted and ruptured, rendering the entire assembly useless. Options were terrifyingly limited, each fraught with its own set of risks. The pressure to find a solution was immense, a silent, crushing weight that pressed down on them all. Kenji, ever the innovator, proposed a daring, untested repair. He envisioned bypassing the irreparably damaged section with a custom fabricated patch, utilizing materials from less critical systems. It was a risky improvisation, a gamble that could either save them or doom their mission entirely. Dr. Lena Petrova, the mission's biologist, listened with growing apprehension. Her cautious nature recoiled from such an audacious plan. She argued vehemently for a more conservative, albeit slower, approach. a detailed assessment of the habitat's internal recycling capabilities, and a prolonged, careful analysis of the regolith for alternative, albeit sparse, hydration sources. Her fear was palpable, irreversible contamination of their precious, finite resources. "One wrong move, Kenji," she warned, her voice tight with concern, "and we poison ourselves." Eva Rostova watched the exchange, a familiar ache stirring within her. The vivid, horrifying images of Earth's global water crisis flashed through her mind. Parched landscapes, desperate faces, the silent drought that had claimed so many, including her own family. That specter of past failures, the agony of human helplessness against a fundamental need, fueled her resolve. She would not allow that history to repeat itself here, not on her watch. The weight of humanity's future, a burden she carried with grim determination, pressed down on her. The crew debated the merits of Kenji's audacious plan versus Lena's meticulous caution. There was a backup water processing system, a compact unit designed for dire emergencies, but its capacity was severely limited. Using it for continuous operation would drain their already strained energy reserves at an alarming rate, effectively crippling other critical habitat functions. The solution, if they chose that path, would come at a significant cost, trading one crisis for another. As the hours bled into a stark, silent eternity, a subtle but insidious change began to manifest within their habitat. The internal humidity, usually maintained at a comfortable level, began to drop. The subtle alarms, initially soft and easily dismissed, became a constant, low hum, a persistent, unnerving reminder of their dwindling resources and the ticking clock. Every breath felt a little drier, every moment a little more anxious. Then, a flicker of hope, brief and tantalizing, pierced the growing tension. A small, hopeful signal from Earth, faint but discernible, crackled through their comms. It was a routine check-in, a lifeline across the vast cosmic void. But before they could respond, before the relief could fully blossom, the signal distorted, garbled into an ominous, unintelligible message, and then abruptly cut out. Was it a warning? A catastrophic event back home? Or simply a malfunction, a cruel trick of the Martian atmosphere? The sudden silence that followed felt heavier, more isolating than before. Eva made her decision. Time was not a luxury they possessed. With a heavy heart, she sided with Kenji's risky repair. "Do it, Kenji," she commanded, her voice firm, masking the tremor of apprehension she felt. "We don't have another choice." Kenji, his face grim but determined, immediately set to work, his movements precise and efficient despite the immense pressure. As the engineer began his intricate, high-stakes improvisation, a faint rhythmic thrumming sound, deep and resonant, was detected. It emanated from the Martian soil beneath them, a low, persistent vibration that registered not on their seismic sensors, but as a subtle, unsettling sensation felt through the habitat's floor. It was a sound that defied explanation, a whisper from the depths of the red planet. The mysterious thrumming, initially a subtle vibration, now grew subtly louder, a low resonant hum that permeated the very structure of their habitat. It wasn't a sound that could be easily ignored. It was a presence, a growing disquiet that settled deep within their bones. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, their faces etched with a mixture of confusion and growing apprehension. It was distinctly not seismic activity, nor did it register on any of their equipment diagnostics as an internal malfunction. This was something external, something unknown, making its presence felt. Lena, her brow furrowed in intense concentration, deployed a suite of specialized acoustic sensors, meticulously trying to pinpoint the source of the unsettling rhythm. Her initial readings were frustratingly inconclusive, a jumble of data that offered no clear answers, only more questions. The sound seemed to emanate from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously, a phantom vibration that defied precise localization. The ambiguity only served to heighten the tension, adding another layer of anxiety to an already strained environment. The confined space of the habitat, once a sanctuary, now felt like a pressure cooker. The constant, fine Martian dust, an inescapable companion, seemed to exacerbate the psychological strain. Every breath, every movement felt heavy with unspoken worries. The persistent, inexplicable thrumming gnawed at their nerves, fraying the delicate threads of their composure. Small arguments, born of fatigue and fear, erupted over trivial matters. A misplaced tool, a slightly too loud sigh, quickly quelled by Eva's sharp, authoritative gaze, but leaving behind a residue of resentment and unease. Meanwhile, Kenji, hunched over the damaged water unit, wrestled with the intricate repair. The pressure of the mission, compounded by the eerie thrumming, weighed heavily on him. In a rare moment of vulnerability, he looked up at Eva, his eyes reflecting a profound weariness. He spoke softly, his voice barely audible above the low hum of the habitat. He confessed his personal stake, the silent burden he carried, his family back on Earth, their lives inextricably linked to the mission's success, their very survival dependent on the resources this Martian outpost was meant to provide. His daring approach to the repair wasn't just about engineering prowess, it was fueled by a desperate, deeply personal motivation. Eva listened, a flicker of understanding passing between them. Attempts to contact Earth, to seek clarification on the garbled, ominous message that had cut out so abruptly, were met with an impenetrable wall of silence. The vast emptiness of space offered no answers, only an overwhelming sense of isolation. They were truly alone, adrift on a hostile world, with no one but themselves to rely on. The silence from Earth was more deafening than any noise. Then, a glimmer of hope, fragile but undeniable, pierced the gloom. Kenji, with a triumphant cry, announced a breakthrough. The water unit, after hours of painstaking work, sputtered back to life, a thin stream of precious liquid flowing into the collection reservoir. It was a temporary fix, a precarious improvisation held together by sheer ingenuity and willpower, requiring constant monitoring. One wrong adjustment, one unexpected tremor, and the entire system could catastrophically fail. Yet, for now, water flowed, a lifeline in the desolate expanse. As the water unit coughed and whirred, Lena let out a gasp that cut through the habitat's humming. Her face, illuminated by the glow of her sensor screen, was a mask of shock and dawning horror. She had finally pinpointed the origin of the thrumming. It wasn't just beneath them, it was directly beneath their landing site, far deeper than any natural geological formation, far deeper than any Martian anomaly they had ever encountered. And with every passing second, it was getting stronger, a pulsating, rhythmic heartbeat from the very core of the red planet. The implications were terrifying. The thrumming intensified, a deep, resonant vibration that no longer just permeated the habitat, but actively shook it. Screens flickered erratically, their data streams momentarily breaking into static before reforming. Alarms, once subtle, now blared with insistent urgency, a cacophony of warning signals that sliced through the already strained atmosphere. The entire structure felt alive, vibrating with an unseen force, a primal rhythm echoing from the planet's core. Panic, a cold, insidious dread, began to spread among the crew. Speculation ran wild, each theory more unsettling than the last. Was it a geological phenomenon of unheard-of magnitude, a Martian internal tremor that defied all scientific models? Or perhaps a more terrifying thought, was it artificial? A secret Earth project they had never been briefed on, a hidden installation activated by their arrival. The very foundation of their trust in the mission, in their superiors, began to erode under the weight of the unknown. Whispers of ancient alien civilizations, once dismissed as science fiction, now gained an unnerving plausibility in the flickering light of the alarms. Eva found herself at a critical crossroads, the weight of command pressing down on her with suffocating force. Her primary directive was survival, to ensure the crew's safety and the mission's continuity. That meant focusing on the immediate, tangible threats, stabilizing the water unit, conserving energy, maintaining life support. Yet the persistent, escalating thrumming represented an unknown, potentially catastrophic variable. Could she afford to ignore it? To prioritize the known over the utterly unprecedented? The dilemma gnawed at her, a conflict of duty that threatened to paralyze her decision-making. Lena, however, had no such internal conflict. Her scientific curiosity, a relentless drive for understanding, superseded all else. She insisted, with a fierce conviction that bordered on obsession, on deploying a subsurface probe. Kenji argued vehemently against it, pointing out the inherent risks. "Commander," he pleaded, "penetrating the habitat's floor could compromise structural integrity. We could depressurize. The solution has a cost, and this one might be too high." But Lena was unyielding. "We cannot ignore this, Kenji. This isn't just noise, it's a signal. We have to know." Ava, seeing the fire in Lena's eyes and recognizing the deeper truth in her words, that ignorance could be as fatal as reckless action, reluctantly approved. The probe deployment, a delicate and dangerous operation, began. The immense pressure, the isolation, the relentless thrumming, and the flickering lights finally took their toll on one of the junior crew members. A young technician, usually calm and composed, suddenly crumpled to the floor, gasping for air, tears streaming down his face in a silent, agonizing panic attack. His cries, muffled by his helmet, were still audible, raw with terror. Eva moved swiftly, her voice a calm, steady anchor in the storm of chaos. She knelt beside him, her hand firm on his shoulder, her words a soothing balm. "Breathe, recruit. Focus on my voice. We are a team. We will get through this." Her strong leadership, a beacon of unwavering resolve, slowly brought him back from the precipice, a testament to her enduring strength. The probe descended with agonizing slowness, a slender conduit into the Martian depths. The video feed on the main screen was grainy, obscured by swirling dust and intermittent interference, a frustrating dance between clarity and static. The crew huddled around, their breath held, their eyes glued to the flickering images. Then, for a fleeting, heart-stopping moment, it appeared. A pattern, geometric, precise, unlike any natural formation. It was gone as quickly as it came, swallowed by the dust, leaving behind a collective gasp of disbelief. The probe continued its descent, deeper and deeper, until the signal became clearer, stronger. The data streamed in, raw and undeniable. The thrumming was not natural. It was a continuous modulated signal, emanating from a vast, buried structure of impossible scale. The implications crashed down upon them, a wave of profound, terrifying realization. They were not alone, and whatever lay beneath them was now undeniably awake. The crew stood frozen, a tableau of disbelief and growing dread. An artificial structure, buried deep within Mars. The words echoed in their minds, each syllable heavier than the last. Was it ancient, a relic of a long-dead civilization? Or something far more recent, a clandestine project from Earth hidden from them until now? The questions swirled, each unanswered query deepening the unsettling mystery that now defined their mission. Their purpose, once clear, had fractured into 1,000 terrifying possibilities. Kenji, his face etched with a newfound intensity, found a strange kind of redemption in this revelation. Having successfully stabilized the water unit, his engineering genius now found a new, more profound purpose. He dove into the enigma of the signal, his fingers flying across his console, driven by a desire to understand, not merely to survive. His previous focus on earthly needs now seemed trivial compared to the cosmic implications of this discovery. He spent hours, eyes bloodshot, analyzing the modulated frequencies, a man possessed by the sheer scale of the unknown. But the buried structure, now undeniably active, was not a benign entity. Its energy output, subtle at first, began to insidiously interfere with the habitat's delicate systems. Power fluctuations became more frequent, causing lights to dim and brighten without warning. Life support glitches, minor at first, started to crop up. A momentary drop in oxygen levels, a brief spike in CO2. Each incident, though quickly resolved, chipped away at their sense of security, a constant, unnerving reminder of the colossal presence beneath them. The habitat, their sanctuary, felt increasingly vulnerable, a fragile shell against an immense unseen force. After what felt like an eternity, Kenji let out a triumphant shout, startling the exhausted crew. He had done it. He had deciphered a small fragment of the modulated signal. It wasn't a language, not in any form they understood. Instead, it was a complex series of mathematical sequences, repeating with an unnerving precision. Elegant, intricate, and utterly alien. He projected the sequences onto the main screen, a stream of numbers and symbols that held the potential to rewrite humanity's understanding of the universe. Eva stared at the glowing symbols, the weight of command settling upon her shoulders with crushing finality. They were in uncharted territory, far beyond the scope of any mission briefing. The very nature of their expedition had fundamentally shifted. No longer were they merely explorers tasked with survival. They were now accidental archaeologists, perhaps even unwitting catalysts, standing on the precipice of a discovery that could redefine humanity's place in the cosmos. The decision was hers, and hers alone, to determine their next move, to navigate this treacherous new landscape of possibility and peril. The burden of this monumental choice was immense, a solitary weight in the vast Martian silence. As they continued to analyze the sequences, the thrumming, which had been a constant, ominous background noise, began to intensify dramatically. It grew louder, deeper, vibrating through their very bones. The habitat shuddered violently, the metallic groans of its structure protesting against the immense forces at play. All systems flashed red, a terrifying cascade of critical alarms overwhelming their consoles. Then, with a deafening roar that ripped through the thin Martian atmosphere, a colossal surge of energy erupted from below. Through their viewport, the Martian sky, a canvas of eternal crimson, was briefly, blindingly illuminated by a brilliant ethereal light, a ghostly beacon piercing the perpetual twilight. The entire planet seemed to hum, a resonant chord struck deep within its core. The light faded, leaving behind an eerie silence, broken only by the habitat's groaning and the crew's ragged breaths. The structure had activated. The realization dawned on them with chilling clarity. They, in their desperate quest for understanding, had unwittingly triggered something monumental, something that had lain dormant for millennia. There was no going back now, no way to unring this cosmic bell. The die was cast, their fate inextricably linked to the awakening of this ancient alien power. The immediate danger passed, but the habitat bore the scars of the colossal energy surge. Lights flickered erratically, some extinguished altogether, plunging sections into a dim emergency glow. Critical systems registered offline, their readouts displaying ominous red warnings. The crew, though physically unharmed, were dazed, their ears ringing from the deafening roar, their hearts pounding in their chests. Fear still clung to them like the fine Martian dust, but it was now laced with a profound, almost reverent terror. The sheer, unfathomable power of the activation had left them shaken to their core, a stark reminder of their insignificance against the cosmic forces they had just unleashed. The mathematical sequences Kenji had painstakingly deciphered now broadcast continuously, openly across the Martian landscape. No longer a faint, modulated thrumming, it was a clear, resonant signal, a beacon radiating outward from the planet's core, an unmistakable invitation to anyone or anything listening in the vast, silent expanse of space. It was a new reality, one that had been forged in an instant, fundamentally altering their mission and quite possibly the trajectory of humanity itself. Eva stared out the viewport at the still, red landscape, the newly active structure beneath them a silent, immense presence. She understood with a chilling clarity the profound implications of this discovery. They were no longer just a crew on a scientific expedition. They were accidental catalysts, witnesses to a cosmic event that transcended all previous human understanding. Their role had shifted from mere explorers to reluctant heralds, burdened with the knowledge that could either unite or shatter humanity. The weight of this revelation settled heavily upon her, a silent, solitary burden. Lena, her biologist's curiosity overriding any residual fear, approached Eva with a proposal. Her eyes, usually cautious, now burned with an almost feverish intensity. "Commander," she began, her voice steady despite the lingering vibrations in the habitat, "we need direct samples. The activation site, the structure itself. It's the only way to truly understand what we've awakened." She knew the risks were immense, the environment outside still unstable, potentially hostile, but the call of scientific discovery was too strong to ignore. It was a personal sacrifice she was willing to make for the sake of knowledge. Eva looked at Lena, then back at the Martian horizon. There was no other option. They had triggered this. They had to understand it. "Approved, Dr. Petrova," Eva said, her voice firm, resolute. "Prepare for EVA. Kenji, I need you monitoring her vitals and environmental readings every second. If anything at all seems off, you pull her back immediately." The decision was made, a perilous step into the unknown. They had to understand what they had awakened for humanity's sake. As Lena began her meticulous preparations, donning her EVA suit, a sense of profound inevitability settled over Eva. She narrated, her voice a quiet, reflective whisper against the hum of the damaged habitat. Mars had always been a destination, a distant red dream, the next frontier for humanity's relentless expansion. Now it was a beginning. A new chapter, perhaps even a new epoch, had been etched into the cosmic annals by their very presence. But every beginning, every profound discovery, every step into the unknown, has a price, a cost that must eventually be paid. And the red planet, silent and ancient, was just starting to collect. Lena completed her suit checks, her movements precise and practiced. With a final nod to Eva, she cycled through the airlock, the outer hatch hissing open to the thin, cold Martian atmosphere. Her boots crunched on the rust-colored regolith. As she took her first step towards the activation site, a faint, distant light shimmered on the Martian horizon, mirroring the newly active structure beneath them. It was a soft, pulsating glow, barely perceptible, yet unmistakably there. A response, perhaps, to the beacon they had unleashed. What comes next, when Mars finally answers?